And that got me more appointments. And if I had more appointments, then I had more business. And probably around 2005, 2006 or so, phone calls largely stopped working thanks to the popularity of caller ID and voicemail. Decision makers no longer had to listen to me. And I started getting more and more information and contacting around LinkedIn. One of my fraternity brothers from college actually invited me. You folks might remember, you would, when you first got an invite to LinkedIn, it said, because you are someone I trust, I want to invite you to my professional network at LinkedIn. And I think they actually still do that. I haven't invited somebody to join LinkedIn in a long time. Just I connect with people now because the network's so big. It's my most important piece of my business from a business development standpoint. And quick footnote, everything I'm going to talk about today, you can do using the free platform. So you don't have to subscribe to Premium or Sales Navigator. I happen to have Sales Navigator right now. The main reason I do so is it gives me extra in-mails, and I'll talk about the value of having an in-mail in a few minutes. But I want to hit a handful of key points today, and I'm actually going to show you one more piece to use outside of LinkedIn that works very closely with LinkedIn that can be a tremendous resource for you for getting in front of customers. So when you're looking here at my main screen, you'll notice that I have a professional headshot, that underneath my name, I have a list of keywords instead of my job title, and that behind my profile picture, I have what they call a banner photo, which has my company logo, and it has my email and my website and my phone number. The most important thing that you can take away from today is LinkedIn works like a search engine. It works like Google. You need to optimize your profile for your audience. So I'm willing to bet that my other two MSPs can look at my keywords and they know very quickly what I do. And the rest of you are probably looking at some of that going, oh, I recognize some of that, but a lot of it I don't. And that's okay. All that means is many of you are not my target audience. And that's the biggest thing to understand is you want to really amplify your profile for your audience. So the first thing to do is to sit down with a good old pen and paper or a tablet, however you like to do your thinking and doodling, and you want to come up with a list of about 20 keywords relevant to your business. Now, here's the important thing. Relevant to your business from your customer's perspective. Every day I see profiles that say, I help people do this. Okay, great. And it's usually very fluffy. It's very marketing. I help people increase revenue. I help people reduce costs. Great. Everybody does that. I help people increase revenue and reduce costs. I can talk to you about that all day long. But if somebody is looking for cybersecurity or a managed service provider, or if they have a compliance need like HIPAA or GDPR or PCI, they'll quickly look at my profile and go, oh, that's the guy that I need to talk to. So take that time to create that piece of content. It'll take you 15 or 20 minutes of good mental exercise for knowing your audience. And then creating the banner photo, that was something I did in Microsoft Paint, and it took me less than 10 minutes. I grabbed my company logo, I pasted it in, I typed in my phone number, my email, and my website, and then I positioned them around so that they fit properly. You'll notice here that when you click the edit button, it shows you so how you can reposition it to make sure that it fits right. And you want to make sure that the photo is not too big or too small, because if it's too big, your audience isn't going to see the entire picture, and if it's too small, LinkedIn's going to stretch the photo and it won't look right. So that's how you optimize your profile for your audience. You'll notice here that there's an add profile section button. You want to spend time going through every piece of this. The more pieces you fill in, the better your profile will show up in search rankings. The idea is You want to be at the top of the search rankings for the right people, your potential customers. Now, when it comes to using LinkedIn, I don't want to delude you and think, oh, once I had optimized my profile, people are just going to come running to me and they're going to start asking me to buy from me. I need your business. No, it doesn't work like that. But you want to make sure that you're prepared for when it does come up. This is really about finding your clients. And the first thing that I'm going to tell you is I have a series of ABCs. I think Kurt's heard this talk before. I call it the ABCs of LinkedIn. And my first ABC is always be connecting. You're at an event today. Right now, you are sitting in the middle of a networking event. The first thing you want to ask yourself is, am I connected to everybody on this call? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to be very intentional afterwards, and I'm going to reach out to people and say, hey, thank you for joining the call today. Let's set up some time to chat in the next week or two. You have to be intentional about connecting with people. And I'll show you, a couple of our audience members have already been proactive, which I love. So thank you all for doing that. And you all did it wrong, which I also love, because I can now instruct people the right way to do it. And I'm giving you a hard time. I know most of you are on this call, so I don't expect you to do the other ABC, which is always be customizing. But when you send a connection request to someone, it's important to remind them how they know you. Because I'm sure you've all been to a networking event before and you met 5, 10, 15, 20 people, and you get a connection request from someone like, Bob Smith. Who's Bob Smith? But if Bob reminds you that hey, you were on the Team Network Rally Point call yesterday. Oh, okay, thanks, Bob. I appreciate that. Just give people a little context, particularly if you're reaching out to somebody you went to high school with or went to college with, and you're like me and it's been a little while. You just want to let them know, hey, man, I don't know if you remember me, class of 95. Wow, hard to believe that was 25 years ago, huh? You want to put those things, just add a little context to it. Now, here is the most significant piece to using LinkedIn. It's literally my reason that I'm on here. It's the first app I look at in the morning, and it's the last thing I look at when I go home. And that's finding customers. So let's say, for example, the title of your customer is owner. That's a pretty simple, straightforward one, particularly for small business owners, right? You're a solo entrepreneur, you're a B2B salesperson, you're focused on that small to medium business market. Owner is a great one for you. And good news, there's over 23 million of them on LinkedIn. Now, on the one hand, it's great to have a list that big, but on the other hand, you can't work with that. That list is too big. So let's start making it much more usable. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this to second-degree connections, because I want to make sure that I'm talking to people that know at least one person that I know. That's my first goal, because I want to get introduced to that person if at all possible. Oh, everybody on here knows a warm referral goes way farther than a cold prospect. So the next thing I'm going to do is, okay, now I'm down to 347,000 people. We've cut the list down significantly. I'm going to change it to a market, and I'm going to put it in Baltimore. And as you can see, I have a few options here. I can pick Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, or I could pick just Baltimore. And now you can even do just Rockville, or just, you have lots of options there for where you want to look for business. Now I've got 3,800. Good list, still too big. So my favorite thing is I've got all these filters now. And again, these are all part of the free platform. You don't have to have a paid account to get these. So let's say I just had a really good meeting with Kurt. I'm like, all right, well, let's see who Kurt knows. So I filtered down to Kurt Kowalski, hit the enter button. Got one.
That's amazing. There's got to be more than that.
In Baltimore. So it's just that's a small list. So I can change that. I can go into all filters. I could take Kurt's name out. My favorite one to use is I love using where I went to school. So I will click on UMBC. I will click apply. So now I have a list of 154 business owners here in the Baltimore market that know at least one person that I do that also went to UMBC. So now I have a handful of strategies that I can reach out to and connect with this person. So let's take a look at Mason as an example. When I look at Mason, I have 8 mutual connections with him. I can look through these. Sarah's a good friend of mine. Alan's a good friend of mine. Bob's a good friend of mine. Luke's a good friend of mine. So out of those 8 people, I found 4 that I know well enough that I could say, hey, would you mind introducing me? And what's going to happen is one of basically 3 things. Well, actually, one of 4. One is they'll ignore me, which does happen. 2, they'll say, well, gee, I don't really know Mason all that. And 3 is, well, yeah, I kind of know Mason. I could introduce you. But what I'm looking for is what I refer to as LinkedIn gold, where somebody goes, do I know Mason? He was my roommate in college. He was the best man in my wedding. That's what I'm really looking for. But any introduction from a mutual connection, I'll take, because it's much stronger than me reaching out to Mason by myself. Now, if I looked at that list and I go, I don't know anybody on there particularly well, or I get feedback from people that say, well, I don't know him well, I wouldn't feel comfortable introducing you, I have another option. You'll see here, I share a group with Mason. So if I go to this button and I click the Baltimore Connections group, I can now filter that group. So I'll go to see all, and I'll start typing Mason's name. Now I can message Mason. I can do up to 16 messages like this for free every month, so long as I share a group with someone. That's a very powerful way to directly message someone if you don't know them. And my message to Mason, I'm going to write it in the subject line, greetings, fellow retriever. And it's going to be, hey, Mason, I was doing some research on LinkedIn, and I love connecting with other business professionals here in Baltimore that also went to UMBC. I'm class of 95. Now, pre-COVID, I would have said to people, would love to buy you a cup of coffee in the next couple of weeks. So I've changed it now to, would you be open to having a video chat with me in the next couple of weeks? So that's my strategy. Now, there's another method that you can use. There's 2 more methods, one on LinkedIn and one that's off. I'm going to try and find you the last LinkedIn method to go over. You can see right here, Courtney has a gold logo next to her name. So if I click on her profile and I go to the More button and I go to Message, see, all right. So she has it shut off. Most people that have a gold logo next to their name allow you to send them a free in-mail. This one happens that she has that shut off, so I would use one of my in-mail credits. So that's the main reason that I have Navigator, is that it gives me all of these in-mail credits to directly contact me. Now, one of the things that I have learned over time is that while many people have a LinkedIn account, they're not terribly active on LinkedIn, which means messaging them through the LinkedIn platform isn't always the best way to get in touch with someone. So what I've done is I started using a program called Rocket Reach. Now, Rocket Reach has a free version and it has a paid version. I currently pay $25 a month, and that gives me 75 new searches every month. I can look up 75 new people. I'll show you how this looks. So I just grabbed Courtney's LinkedIn URL. I'm going to clear that out, and I'm going to paste her LinkedIn URL right there. I'm going to click the old search button. So now I know that she's on LinkedIn. If she were on Twitter or Facebook or Pinterest or Reddit, it would also show me those there. And I can even ask it to give me her email address. And the content on Rocket Reach is about 75% accurate. So the majority of people that I look up on here, I'm getting a reliable email that I can now go and reach out to them and follow through. And I like sending emails because I can put read receipts. And I know there's a much higher likelihood that they're going to see my email as opposed to getting a LinkedIn message on a platform. So one last thing, I mentioned that everybody sent me connection requests. When I get a connection request from somebody that I don't know, I have a criteria that I go through. First, I look at them and go, is this a potential customer? And if the answer is yes, then I accept. If they're not a potential customer, I look at the mutual connections and I go, okay, well, how do I know this person? Rokas and I have 90 mutual connections. So there's a good chance that he knows somebody well that I know very well, or multiple somebody. But if I don't get that vibe either way, I can click the see all button, and now I have the opportunity to message everyone. And I will click on the message button, and my message to these people is always the same. It's, hi, Brandon. Thanks for reaching out. I don't believe we've met before. What about my profile interested you in connecting? And then I give them 3 business days to respond. Because if somebody sends me a connection request and I engage them, I ask a fair and reasonable question, and they don't get back to me in 3 business days, well, how productive could we have really been? The answer is not very. So I'll delete them. And then my last ABC that I like to share with people is always be cultivated. And what I mean by that is you build this network. So I tell people I have over 5,400 connections on LinkedIn now. And they're like, wow, that's a lot. Well, it was intentional and it took time. I've been on this platform now for 15 years. So if you do the quick math, that tells you about how many connections I add each year. But in addition to that, it's not enough just to have the connections. You've got to work at familiarizing yourself with it. So your notifications button gives you great information. It reminded me that I have my event with Team Rally Network today. I can see other people that have commented on posts. I can see posts that are relevant to the hashtags I follow, and I can respond to them. Somebody got a new job. Somebody commented on a post that I commented on. Somebody viewed my profile. Somebody changed jobs. Somebody has a birthday. It gives me all this information, and those are my opportunities to engage my network, to cultivate my relationships. You know, Kurt and I probably hadn't spoken in about a year, but whenever Kurt and I reconnect, it's like we haven't missed a beat. And that's because we've been intentional about talking to one another. Even, it doesn't have to be all the time, but you have to have that strike point. You have to have that grounding moment that lets people realize that you're valuable to one. That's why I'm on this call today, because Kurt and I know that we're valuable to one. So that is a very quick, high-level overview of my program. I do a 90-minute version of this where I also include an hour of one-on-one coaching to work with people and really get in depth and help you come up with your keywords and help you write your summary section and go through all of the nuts and bolts of your profile. But I wanted to hit the key highlights today so that you could quickly start finding prospects. And with that, I'm going to open this up to conversation. If there's something you've always wanted to know about LinkedIn and didn't know how to do it, I'll do my best to answer. I don't know everything. I just know more than most.
All right. Somebody needs to raise their hand. Do you want to keep your screen share up, or do you want to pull that down, Mike, so we can see?
I'll keep it up for now in case they ask something and I need to navigate to it.
Okay.
Hey, Mike?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan.
I guess a question just to follow up on Rocket Reach.
Sure.
Like you, I've been on LinkedIn a long time. I don't use it nearly as effectively as you, if at all. I mean, I have a professional profile. I've got a decent thing going for me, in my opinion, but just the basics. But Rocket Reach sounds interesting. And I think I wrote down that it's 75 searches per month. It was $25 per month. Is that right?
Yes. They have a much bigger package that they will force you into for the first month. I believe it's 200 for 75
Oh, I don't like
or
getting
100
forced.
for 75.
I don't like getting forced.
Yeah, that's where they start. And you could also use them. They have a free platform that gives you 5 searches a month.
Okay, thank you.
But after the first month, I said, hey, I'm leaving. This is too much money. They said, what if we gave you 75 for 25? I said, sold.
Sounds like Sirius XM.
Yes, very much so. Very
Yeah.
much so.
I
have
can
a
get a
question,
better
Mike.
deal on Series?
Always get a better deal on Sirius.
Okay, I'm going to have to do that. Thank you. See that, Ron? Somebody just saved me some money.
Dan, you had a question?
Anybody just waved their hand or something? Jordan, go ahead.
So you mentioned keywords, and that's like the where I've struggled, and I've been playing,
Mhm.
with what to do on my LinkedIn, quote unquote intro. And how often do you suggest changing those? Is it something you leave on and then you get searched and stuff like that, or is it something you should be changing weekly, monthly, daily, yearly? What's your suggestion on that?
Well, you bring up a really good question in that the right answer for me might not be the right answer for you.
Fair.
So the first thing I'll say is, what are you trying to accomplish? Some businesses will have a feature product for a month or for a quarter, and you might want to craft your keywords around that as a marketing strategy. Now, the other side of that is maybe your business is a bit more static. So coming up with that keyword list, plugging it in, and only making mild tweaks to it from time to time might be more strategically beneficial for you. The core of my keywords has been relatively unchanged for the last 12 months. But every now and then something will come up and I'll go, oh, I should add that. And I'll say this one is more valuable than having something else at this time.
Okay.
Good answer, Mike. Thank you.
And you don't play like with because I've been seeing a lot lately with hashtags before it.
So here's the thing. Hashtags are a big trend on LinkedIn now. They're not searchable within your keywords. They're searchable within your content.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Good
I
information.
have a question.
Mike, go ahead. John Maggio.
Yes, Mike. Better done than perfect. It's time to really start messaging people.
Yep.
The fruit is in the follow-up. You send one message. What's your follow-up technique? Is it 2 more messages? Is there what's the space in between messages, etc.?
Again, the answer is it depends. So if I'm pursuing a customer, if I message that, say I'm connected with them on LinkedIn, but I haven't gotten a meeting, I'm going to message them once or twice on the LinkedIn platform. And if I don't get a response, then I'm going to move it to email and I'm going to start putting a read request on it so that I know that they're seeing my messages. So I will quickly transition the message off the LinkedIn platform because I know not everybody checks it. Not everybody's a LinkedIn nerd like me. I've just had to accept that.
And you keep moving because there's lots of pay dirt. We got to keep putting pay dirt in to get that gold. So you just keep moving. If they don't respond in like 3 or 4 attempts, you just keep it moving.
Absolutely, because there's so many prospects. The owner of my company pointed out that in my industry, there's a 6% turnover in clientele, which means that if Baltimore has 10,000 companies, I'm literally looking for 60 businesses. Hammering on 2 or 3 just because I think I'm a really good fit for them probably isn't a productive use of my time unless I have some intel that's not public knowledge.
Okay. I will thank you, John. Great. Go ahead, Scott.
I got 2 questions for you.
Okay.
And I had to jump off for a second in the beginning, so I apologize if you mentioned it. I've been trying to use LinkedIn more and more. And my first question is, I've noticed that sometimes when I friend someone or reach out to connect to them, I get an instant message back from them. And I'm curious your experience with that, both receiving and setting up, your opinions of kind of that instant message.
When you say instant message, is it the verbal vomit? Hey, here's what I do, and won't you buy this from me?
Yes.
Yeah,
And some of them aren't that bad, but yes. It's click to connect, and the second they do that, or the second you accept them, you get that pop-up message that you know is, stock.
Yeah, and that's a great question. That goes back a little bit to what I was saying earlier about qualifying connection requests. That I will respond before I will accept, because I want to see if they're going to do that. And I would say over 70% of the people that respond, that's what they do. They hey, Mike, thank you for accepting my connection request. And here's the latest whiz bang widget that we're selling to people like you and shoving down your throat until you gag. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
It brings up another question for me, but I'm going to ask the other one that I had first,
Sure.
which is, what is your strategy, or what do you recommend as a strategy for content on your own posts on LinkedIn? Keeping it strictly business, or throwing in personal, or just talking about like things you appreciate in life? Because I've been a little all over the place.
I don't think there's anything wrong with showing who you are as a person. One of the things that I get into in my full training is people buy from people. And the more your audience views you as a person, the higher the likelihood they will do business with you. That said, you need to stay away from politics, religion, gender, and race.
Yeah.
And I say that, I said that, and many of you probably said, well, of course I know not to do that, Mike. And thank you. I'm glad that was your reaction. I'm saying that because I see it enough every day. And I go, well, obviously not everybody knows to avoid these things. So I always say that. There are forums for those. There are LinkedIn groups for literally every interest, personal and professional. So if you are very passionate about your faith, I guarantee you there is a LinkedIn group for people that are Christian, for people that are Muslim, for people that are Jewish, for people that are agnostic, for people that are atheists. You name it. That's where you go for that audience. But for the public, I talk about my son all the time, and I talk about his autism all the time. I'm an advocate for that community. I raise money for that community, and you will see me post content around that. But that is the exception. It is not the rule. Most of my content is around my industry, my experience, and engaging others for networking. Great question. Thank you.
Anybody else? It's we have 4 minutes to go. I just, if there's something you really need to ask.
You brought up the idea of autism. I'm a previous preschool SPED teacher, so I had a lot of kids on the autism scale, and I actually had a former teammate who has a son with autism and ADHD, and I have another boss who has a son with autism, and we met. I had a temporary teammate who said that she said like the worst comment about autism that I'd ever heard. That was just like completely politically incorrect.
Yeah, most of them are.
Not being surprised at people in certain like European countries having kids with autism, and that it was based on it was just something that was like not research based in any shape or form. And I was just like, I don't know if I can work with you. I know you're supposed to be on my team and and all that, but I was just like, you want to have people with the same, I don't know, morals and values, and you're not here just to make money. You're here to promote things that are correct. And I was just like, I was in complete and utter shock because I was like, no, I've worked with a lot of people. I've studied about autism.
Yeah, there are two important things to take away from your commentary, Kim. It's first is differing opinions are what challenge us and make us grow. So seeking that out is valuable. That said, it is equally important to, one, be sensitive to others because we don't know what they've been through in their life.
Yeah.
And recognize that we're not always right. So from what you just described to me, your colleague made an ass of themselves. But as you said, we need to work with these people unless we decide to change our job.
Yeah.
So within that aspect of it, we can acknowledge and go, okay, this was a one-off. Yeah, that was really inappropriate. But the scope of work beyond that is that this is basically a good person. And that's, you can return to that statement for almost everybody, right? And then we have the other ones that time and time and time again reinforce you're just an uncouth jackass and somebody needs to talk to you.
All right.
Well,
I think that we're going to have to end the call unless there's something just really just got to say before we go, because I do like to respect people's time. And we are at 4:58 right now. So if you want to squeeze something in, otherwise we're going to move on. You know, if you do have something, I do want to, well, first of all, let's give Mike, I thought that was just a really awesome presentation. Thank you so much.